After the Battle of Ourique, the path towards Portuguese independence from the Kingdom of Leon Castile was becoming a reality, but Afonso was still only viewed as a king by his people. In the year 1140, hostilities between the cousins broke out once again, with Count Afonso of Portugal invading Galicia, thus breaking the Treaty of Tuy. There, he conquered several lands for the county. In 1141, in Arcos de Valdevez, Afonso and his cousins' army were about to face each other, but they settled for a tournament, out of fear of losing troops, a great danger when more numerous Muslim invaders could show up at any moment. The Portuguese won, and in September of the same year, Alfonso VII asked for peace. A new peace treaty was signed. The Moors wanted revenge for Ourique, so they attacked the castle of Leiria in 1140 and Sor in 1144. Meanwhile, Afonso ordered for the castle of Leiria to be rebuilt in 1142. In the same year, he tried to conquer Santarem and Lisbon with the help of English and Norman crusaders, but failed. The lack of men and the fact that both cities were very well supplied were the main factors. In 1143, everything Afonso had worked for was achieved at the Cathedral of Zamora. Alfonso VII recognized the independence of Portugal in the peace treaty known as the Treaty of Zamora. Later in the year, the Catholic Church put Portugal under its protection, meaning that if Alfonso tried to break the Treaty of Zamora, the Church would respond. Count Afonso thus became King Afonso I, the first king of Portugal. After the defeats in Lisbon and Santarém, the now king, Afonso I, was ready to act. He realized the need for more troops and siege engines, which he didn't have at his disposal. In the summer, the papal legate, Cardinal Guizo Vico, arrived in the peninsula, and the monarch asked him for international support to conquer the great city of Lisbon. Meanwhile, 4,000 kilometers away, the city of Edessa fell, and Pope Eugene III called for a crusade. Louis VII of France and Conrad III of the Holy Roman Empire would be its main leaders. But the man who would be mostly associated with the enterprise was Bernard of Clairvaux, who preached it in different locations across northern and central Europe. The King of Portugal started dialogue with the Frenchman in late 1146. The latter told him that a fleet on its way to Palestine would pass by Lisbon, and that some of those men could help him in the conquest. That was all that Afonso wanted to hear. He then started to prepare an attack on Santarém, which would need to be conquered before Lisbon, for there could be no risk of the great city receiving aid from nearby towns. Afonso planned to take the city by a stealth assault, therefore it was important to attack it at night. This was the only way to conquer it, for the king didn't have enough men and supplies to endure a long siege. Mãe Ramires, a Mozarabic man, was the one chosen to lead the mission, because he knew the city well. Also, he spoke the language of the sentinels, so in case one of them noticed him and his men, he could talk himself out of the situation. On the 12th of March 1147, a Portuguese army of hundreds of men departed from Coimbra, with the king leading the rearguard and Mãe Ramires their vanguard. The king brought some of his most trusted noblemen, including Mendes de Sousa, who had been crucial in the Battle of Ourique. With them, a group of Templar knights also accompanied the Iberian monarch on his column in a 150-kilometer march. Typically, it would take a week to reach Santarém from Coimbra, but the column moved quickly through secondary routes to remain unnoticed, and brought food from home to avoid getting unrequired attention from hunting. It is important to notice that it wasn't common to make war during this time of the year, but from May to December. This and all the other factors mentioned prove much carefulness in the planning. The column moved firstly to Leiria, having then passed by Porto de Mós, Orem, to reach Pernes. The king then sent 2 Mozarabs to the city of Santarém to warn the community that they were arriving in 3 days. This way, he could get their support. When the army arrived in Pernes, Afonso revealed the plan of attack that only him and the leaders of the expedition had known so far. 120 men, led by Mãe Ramires, would break in groups of 10, using ladders. These men would neutralize the sentinels and then, from the top of the wall, raise the Portuguese standard high to signal Afonso and the men who accompanied him. The king was to lead his host into the main square. The final 25 kilometers of the march were traveled in the night of the 14th of March. On its arrival, most of the column hid itself behind the valley, close to the suburb of the city. The 120 then advanced lightly equipped with swords and spears on horse, and waited for orders to start the assault. Mãe Ramires then advanced close to the citadel. Upon his arrival, he noticed 2 of the sentinels were still awake, so he waited for them to fall asleep. They finally closed their eyes, and the operation was about to start, but a problem arose. While Mãe Ramires was trying to fix the ladders on the battlements, they fell, making a considerable noise. Luckily, the guards didn't wake up. He then asked the young boy who was nearby to go on his back, climbed the wall, and put the top of the ladders on the chemin de ronde. Some of his men then climbed and put the standard high immediately. A few of the sentinels saw the flag and asked them who they were, but immediately realized who was in front of them and sounded the alarm screaming, "Christian assault!" Mãe Ramires then gave his war cry, screaming for Saint James and King Afonso. Only 25 Portuguese men were able to enter the city. The Muslims immediately attacked, but the Christians resisted, and the army outside soon realized their men were at danger. Meanwhile, inside the city, some of Ramirez's men reached the gates and tried to break the locks. They failed, but the army from outside quickly rushed to the doors and helped them with a steel axe. Afonso and his men finally entered the city on a powerful cavalry charge, defeating the Moors with ease, in part because at that time of the night most people were sleeping, therefore few men were there to defend it. Also, the attack happened in a residential and commercial area. The citadel was harder to conquer, but still easy, given the fact that the men protecting it surrendered after realizing the governor had fled the city. After the victory, Afonso remained in the city for a few days, nominating a new municipal judge and rebuilding the defenses. He also left some troops there. Some days later, he returned to Coimbra, the capital, to prepare for his greatest goal, the conquest of Lisbon.